Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with the main man, Brad, aka AVFC, The Religion, on X and all your social media. Make sure you smash the like button, hit that subscribe button. We're marching on to 10,000 subscribers. You can help us get there by liking, subscribing, and get your comments in, your thoughts on the upcoming game on Sunday that we are previewing, Tottenham Hotspur versus Aston Villa. And yes, Brad, it feels like an absolute eternity. I always say this after every international break since football, proper football, was with us. How excited are you for the return of the Premier League this weekend?
Massively. International football just doesn't hit the spot like Premier League does, so I am buzzing for it.
Yes. Maybe not quite as much at, say, 4 p.m. on Sunday, but we'll see. We'll keep that positivity going. And you mentioned about international football, mate. The players have been out there, a number of Aston Villa players on international duty, few of them doing very, very well, particularly Ezri Konsa, who is gaining plaudits more and more as we speak. I don't know whether that's a good thing or whether that's a bad thing, and whether we want to keep him as a secret, but certainly showing what a quality defender he is right now.
Yeah, I always hate it when Villa players going on international duty, especially with England, because it always feels like there's a gossip behind the scenes to try and go elsewhere. And Konza was always that guy that was never spoke about in the summer, or pretty much any summer or any window. He's never really, there's loose links to somewhere, but it's always, your Rodgers, your Kamaras, your Martinez, your Watkins, but he goes under the radar. But now England fans are starting to realise that he is a Rolls Royce, and hopefully that noise goes away. Hopefully.
Yeah, maybe a big contract could be in the offing if Villa have
Fine,
got any
give it
more
him.
money. Yeah, we'll see.
Give it him.
We'll see. Yeah, but there was other international duty, other players, sorry, on international duty who did well. Obviously, with England, Ollie Watkins got his goal. Obviously, went home early with a bit of an injury, but we'll talk about him, whether he'll be back for Sunday or whether the indications are that he is. Morgan Rogers played really well in that, particularly that first game, that friendly against Wales, and Daniel Malen scoring, continuing his goal scoring form for Netherlands. So some players doing quite well and looking quite sharp and getting those minutes that they need, particularly someone like Amadou Onana for Belgium, to come back in good frame for the Villa squad.
No, absolutely. The minutes in the legs of Onana is huge for us because he has been. It feels like he's made of glass in a Villa shirt. So it's good to see that he's got minutes in his legs. I mean, to be fair, midfield we've been quite good with. I know Tielemans obviously is out, but Bogart. Even though I've always said I'm not a big fan of his, but you've got to give him credit where it's due. Bogart's doing quite well. McGinn's been superb this season so far. So yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting if he is fit, if he does play, whether he starts or whether he makes the bench, because right now it's not really a position that I'm worried about in the midfield. But yeah, like you say, it's interesting what happens with Watkins, but Malen scoring, so we've got him to potentially play ahead of him if needs be. Like I say, Rodgers scoring for England. He's mad. Like the England Rodgers at the moment is far superior. I think we've got his brother playing for Villa at the minute because it's just not the same guy. Which again, as I've just said about Konza, it worries me.
Perhaps it's Roger Morgan we've got into the.
Yeah, maybe. That'd be a turn up. Yeah, to be fair, just snuck him in like the Man United twins when they had. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, like I say, it's good to get minutes in the legs of everyone, and hopefully everyone comes back unscathed. But we'll soon find out.
Exactly, and we talked obviously before the international break about the performances of Aston Villa, and it's been vital that they got those 4 wins in a row in all competitions and got some momentum going, because I know we're sitting on 9 points from 7 games, which has to be said is a below par return for the quality of the fixtures that we had. Those 2 wins against Fulham and Burnley were kind of a minimum expectation. I know I was ranting a bit before those wins, about the performances, about kind of where we could see the wins coming from. And it's brilliant that we've managed to get that momentum, but it's so important that we follow that up, particularly this Sunday against Tottenham, because Tottenham is a team that we would say that we should be in the space with, competing for, that fifth spot of Champions League, that fourth spot of Champions League, the top six, whatever you want to call it. And to get a result against them is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, in a weird way. I mean, Spurs are the easiest fixture coming up out of the next few, because we've got some really hard fixtures coming up. And we have had Spurs' number twice, the last two times, of 2-0 and 2-1, I believe. So, yeah, like you said, it's kind of those wins against Fulham and Burnley. Is it actual real foundation, or have we just papered over cracks? This is, in a weird way, we need this fixture to see where we're at as a club. Whether are we genuinely competing for a top five, or was it, like I say, we've just beat below par teams? No disrespect to Fulham, because they have been superb, the last few years. They've ever present in the Premier League. But there should be, where we are as a club now, there should be bread and butter teams where we look at them and go, that's 6 points, move on. And then you look at that, and the teams that we've lost to, will drop points to, your Sunderlands, your Brentfords, they should be bread and butter teams. So I'm not going to get carried away with beating two teams we really should be putting away anyway. So Spurs is kind of, like I say, the easier test coming up that we've got in the next few weeks. So this will probably give us an idea where we are, genuinely where we are.
Yeah. We'll talk a bit about the players that Tottenham have to maybe pose a threat, and obviously what Villa, who might feature for Villa. But in terms of their start to the season, they're sitting in where are Tottenham sitting? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought here. I've got the wrong table up here. Here we are. They're sitting third in the league. 7 games played, won 4, drawn 2, and lost 1. I think their home form, though, that's what I was previously looking at. The home form isn't as good. They've won 1, drawn 1, and lost 1. And I think their last result against Wolves was a draw. Maybe they beat them. But yeah, their last result, their last home game was Wolves was a draw. So
yeah,
under Thomas Frank, how do you think he's done for Tottenham in terms of his start? Because I think a lot of Tottenham fans are quite happy with him.
Yeah, I don't think they could argue being third to where they were last season. I know they won the cup and all that. And I'm desperate for a cup. But obviously, Ange got the sack for a reason, and that was his league positioning. So, as a Spurs fan, I don't think they can argue too much being third. And like I say, they haven't been super. You know what I mean? It's not like they've blown people away, but they're sitting third. So, I mean, like you said, we're trying to be on par with a team like Spurs, and I don't think Villa fans would argue if we were sat third right now. So I don't think he's. I think he's an excellent coach. I think if there was anything to happen to Unai Emery previously, I wouldn't mind going down the Brentford route like we did with Dino and took Thomas Frank. So I'm a big fan of his, and you can see that he's coaching them right, and I think he's getting them playing well. Like I said, they've had a few injuries themselves. They've lost Solanke, they've got Maddison out. They've got they've done very well. I think when we look at what Chelsea spent, Man United spent, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City are always going to be there, but they're still in the top 3. So yeah, I think he's done a very, very good job.
Yeah, I don't think you could argue with what he's done there so far. Obviously you're not going to win every game. You're not going to be hugely convincing in every game, but to, pick up that away win at Leeds, to, Brighton's a tough game, to beat Man City as well, 2-0. I think obviously they'll point to Bournemouth as a bit of a disappointing result, and that Wolves game at home is a bit of a disappointing result. But generally, you've got to look at balancing up the Champions League as well with the Premier League and keeping in that position with a couple of injuries.
Yeah,
it has been a seamless kind of transition into Thomas Frank era at Tottenham, and he's a good manager. I think I was speaking to Dan. I think it was on the fans forum, mentioned that Emery's generally done quite well against Thomas Frank. He's got Oliver Glasner seems to be his kryptonite. But I think with regards to Frank against Brentford, he's done okay. He's had some decent results when he's been Brentford manager. So maybe in terms of tactically, Emery can generally perform quite well against Thomas Frank, and also, as you mentioned, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Emery's had a couple of good results over the years.
Yeah, no, he has. He has. He's done very well. Yeah, Glasner kind of burns my ears when I mention his name. And
That's
Crystal
terrible,
Palace.
isn't it?
Yeah. Oh God. But yeah, like when it comes to Frank, like yeah, he like I say, he's won the last two games there. 2-0, 2-1. And I always felt like when we've played them, it's always been a really good. It's been a good game. There's always been. Like I said, we've scored two. We scored four in the last two games against them, and like I say, I think it's going to be the same again. But it's just going to be interesting. I'm not so sure that we where we were when we played them the last two times. Like we do feel like you said, is it we've kind of slipped away a little bit this season, but but we have seemed to like we're building back up to that again with like four wins on the bench. So we can't knock what what that confidence is going to do for us winning four on the bench. So long may it rain. And like you said with the Spurs, I think their home record isn't great. I know they beat Doncaster, but that it hasn't been superb of late. So hopefully hopefully got a bit of fatigue from the Champions League that we seem to have suffered last season when we was in the Champions League. So we'll see.
Absolutely. And talking about Tottenham, who's impressed you for them in terms of this start to their season in terms of their players?
To be fair, they've got quite a few players. So I was looking at it before we come on, like the players. I always try and look at the players and be like, who would I take for Villa? And I think I'd probably take the 11 because they've
Certainly at the
got
start
they've
of the
got
season
some
anyway.
yeah. Kudos is superb. Like I worry against him going against our fullbacks. He's lightning quick. I mean, even like Van der Veen, I think everyone can admit that he's a very good, very very good centre half. Interesting to see how he gets on against Watkins or Malen, whoever it's going to be, because he's kind of different. He's quick.
Hmm.
But then Vicario's top keeper. I mean, you could go through the list. I mean, even Richarlison has those weird. He has kind of like a Ollie Watkins purple patch where he just goes on like these mad little runs and where he goes like 2-3 games, scores worldies, and then he disappears again.
Hmm.
But hopefully that's not the case on Sunday. But yeah, who's impressed? I mean, as a collective, they've been superb this season. Romario, obviously, for some reason, because of the Matty Cash link, the Spurs always hate Matty Cash for the
Yeah, they'll be bang up for
Romario.
that, won't they?
Yeah, so they'll always want Romario to murder him and stuff. But yeah, he's a top player as well. So yeah, it's hard to pick somebody out because as a team they're brilliant, which is what Frank did at Brentford. He made it into a team rather than individuals. But yeah, brilliant across the board.
Yeah, he mentioned Kudus, who scored in the last game, but Xavi Simons has impressed me. Like if he's come off the bench, he's changed
Games, yeah.
changed moments in games, and he seems like he's got that bit of extra quality. So we're definitely going to have to watch out for him.
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah. That the attacking options they've got that's what worries me with our back four because we've seen that we can switch off,
Hmm.
several times through a game, and we've had some very good keeper moments from the world's number one in our number two, and and Martinez is still one of the best keepers in the world, I think. But they've been called into action more than I like them to this season already, and we can argue that the teams we played are lesser than Spurs. So if we're not careful and we're not switched on for the entire game, these players can hurt us. So like you said, Richarlison, Simmons, Sarr, Kudos. I know Solanke's out, but yeah, there's quite a few attacking options that can hurt us. And yeah, I don't want to. I just want us to keep our reds on, and I think we'll be okay.
Well, absolutely. And talking about those attacking options with regards to how Aston Villa might approach it, I don't think it'll be that kind of controlling possession, trying to strangle the game as much that we've done against sort of teams like Sunderland and Brentford,
Yeah.
where we've kind of, because we've succumbed to that sluggish play, we've not really gone at them as much as we could have done. Like we've done the control bit, but we haven't done the actual action bit, the proactive bit. Whereas again, I feel against Tottenham, because they'll be a better team, because they'll probably command the ball a bit more, maybe that will lead Aston Villa to be a bit more pragmatic, soak up the pressure and then potentially look at catching teams on the break, maybe Morgan Rogers carrying the ball, maybe Daniel Malen in behind, something like that. How do you see Aston Villa approaching this game?
Same. I think we're going to go for the counter attack. I think we're just going to do probably like the high line at the back again, because they've got pace. They've got real pace. So if we go too, like I say, it's one of those weird ones because if we go too far forward and we get caught, we've got too many men forward, and they're just going to be behind us. And before we know, it's 4v4. With how quick they've got. But it's. I think we're going to do exactly what you said. I think we're just going to try and keep them on the counter and get in behind them. But like I say, you got Van der Veen who's super quick, and it's not like we're built for height as much. I can't see Buendia, out jumping anyone. So yeah, I think you're spot on.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because I know it's a different style to what Ange had, and obviously they did
Yeah.
overpower us under Ange at their ground last season in the end. But maybe Frank has got a bit more of a controlled, pragmatic approach. But certainly, like you say, with the attacking options that they have, it is going. They are once they get ahead of steam. If we allow them to get ahead of steam, that's when it's going to become quite difficult for us.
Yeah, it is. It is because, like you say, he's like Andrew's very just full on, very Kevin Keegan. You score three, we score four, and I think that can. I think that's probably what cost him his job because I think he did that too often. I don't think there was real any. I mean, I don't want to disrespect him too much, but I don't think there was that much tactical behind it. Like we all know, Unai Emery loves his tactics, but I think Frank's cut from the same cloth. I think he's going to like you say, he's going to try and control the game and then get behind. So, like I say, it's kind of them going against each other, and I think they're very similar in their own in a different way, but in a similar way. Where I think they're just going to try and control the game and get in behind. But like I say, because they've got so much pace, it worries me with my wider areas, especially how we like to tuck in with two tens instead of having Wideman to like back up the fullbacks. While Frank does like to have your Poros and then you'll have like your Kudos in front of it and so on, where they can double team. And I don't think whether we have Mattison or Dean, obviously it's always going to be Cash because he's got some on Villa. I don't know what it is, but he can always start. Even though we'll give him credit, he's been superb this season.
Yeah.
If they get doubled on, I think that could be an issue. And obviously someone closing down Pau, because when Pau's best thing is that he can get the ball and play it forward and spray it similar to a midfielder. But if he's getting closed down rapidly, which I'm going to assume Frank will probably do because it makes sense to close down a guy that can, cross a ball 30 yards to a 50 pence piece. It's going to be a hard game, I think. So we just need to be mindful of what they've got and what they can do.
Yeah, well, you've mentioned a couple of players who you think will feature. So, just talking about Villa, we're obviously doing this before the press conference, and I guess players are pretty much returning from international duty. Will probably get training pictures tomorrow. Unai will do his press conference. But how are you thinking in terms of a kind of starting 11 if we had everyone available?
Oh, sorry, mate. It's gone all.
There we go.
There we go, mate. I'm back. So for the starting 11, it's going to be interesting because I think Martinez went off injured for Argentina. I think he went off for about 70 odd minutes. So I still think he'll play because he seems to be playing away from home at the minute, but not in Europe. So I still think Martinez starts. Cash will always start. We just know we will. Konza, Pau. Now it's the left back that I'm interested in because I think that'll kind of give us an idea of how we're going to set up. Because if Mattison plays, we know he's got legs. He's going to get forward. Well, Dean, I think, is a bit more sit back and then just get the ball over the top. But personally, I like to see Mattison play just because I think they're going to put Kudos against whoever it is on that left back position. In the middle, like I said, I'm not a massive fan of Bogart, but he deserves his flowers. So I think Bogard and Kamara will play. And then obviously we're going to play. I think we'll play Buendia. I think it's the type of game he needs because he can get that ball through the middle. Maybe to Malen, he'll be up front if Watkins is injured. And obviously Rodgers and McGinn out wide. I really think this is a game where McGinn can really help in the wider positions because I think he'll go toe to toe with whether it's Porro or if he goes down Jed Spence on the other side. I think he's up for it. So I think this is a game where we could see McGinn. I think we need a bit of grit against this team
Oh yeah.
because obviously they're going to have Bentancur, they're going to have Romario. They're going to have people who are willing to put a tackle in, but I can't see many of our players up for that. So I think this is a game where I think McGinn will shine.
Yeah, yeah. My only couple of potential changes on that would be, like you said there, Dina will, I think, will potentially just get the nod in terms of that
Yeah,
more defensive angle. But I can see why you would go for Matson, definitely, on a pace issue, because he's 1v1 defending us, has got a lot better as well.
yeah,
But I maybe see him, if we were in the game with like 65 minutes gone, then I can see him maybe coming on to affect it. But equally, you could say if we're 1 or 2 nil up and you want to shore it up, then you bring Luka Dean on. So, it's 6 and 2 frees on that point. But yeah, maybe Luka Dean on my side. And then, is the game a little bit too big? Is the pitch a bit too vast for, say, a Bogard to, or are they going to ruffle his feathers like Palhinha? Is he going to get him into his face a little bit too much? So could you maybe see McGinn and Kamara as that defensive midfield or central midfield duo, and then in front of them you've got Buendia, Rogers, and Evan Gesson, maybe because he does that defensive work and helps Matty Cash. That could potentially be. So I don't know whether that could be an option. And then, yeah, if Watkins is injured, Malen plays up top. If Watkins is fit, I think Watkins starts. But those are the only potential changes that I could see.
yeah. I mean, Gasson was obviously I've kind of gone the other way with it, where I think Gasson will be coming on about the 60, 70 minutes.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yes,
that's
good
where I
options.
went
Yeah.
because I think because obviously we don't know what's happening with Sancho, because I'd like to see Sancho play more minutes. So like I say, if we had Sancho about, then I probably would have switched it around and gone, do you know what, we'll start Sancho, then bring Gasson on, and then he can help with Rogers. But yeah, I've just got a feeling that he's going to go. Yeah, he very likes Bogard at the minute. Like I say, I'm not a huge fan,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
every time I see him in the team, I'm like,
He's getting
okay,
more and more
why?
confident, isn't he? He's starting to drive with the
Yeah,
ball. Just want to
yeah,
see him when he gets the ball on the edge of the box. I want to see him to have the confidence to have a shot rather than sort of give it to someone else. That's the next step. But he's definitely getting there, and physically, he does put himself about. It's just I can Palhinha and Bentancur or
yeah.
Romero, if he steps in midfield, they're a pretty formidable force,
They are.
aren't they? And that's difficult. Like I say, if they get ahead of steam, it is quite difficult to stop them. So we'll see. But one thing I will say is on both sides, there's a lot of quality off the bench. And
Yeah,
many games in the Premier League are won with the changes and the game changes that you can bring on. So you mentioned someone like Sancho, who potentially could be available. You've got Harvey
definitely.
Elliott, you've got Amadou Onana, you've got Ian Matson if he's on the bench, you've got Marlon if Watkins is fit. You've got multiple players that can come on in any game state to affect the game, whether that be to be more defensive minded or to be more attack minded.
No, definitely. I think the game will be won by someone off the bench. That's my prediction. I think somebody will be the winner off the bench for either team. Obviously, I want it to be us. But we are, and like we touched on about Onana being back, like this could be a perfect game. Like you said, with Bentancur in the middle, Romero, the guy's a unit. Onana, like he's like I think like four of my steps are one of his. Like he's huge. Like, and this could be the perfect game for him. But then because he's like I say, it feels like he's made of glass. I worry if he goes in with a challenge for like a Bentancur. So, yeah, like I say, it feels like the perfect game, but then also like the worst game for Onana. So, I mean, hopefully he comes on, he gets minutes, and he proves me wrong. Because obviously I want him to succeed. But yeah, like you said, it's for the options off the bench. We've got. It feels really strange to say, do you know what? We're not just looking at one or two players off the bench. We've actually got a host of players now where we can go, do you know what? We can trust those players. Even like in the defensive option, I don't think Lindelof is that bad. So even for that, if we need to shore up and bring somebody on, I don't feel so awful to say that he's going to be there. But what you mentioned about Bogart has been my issue. Is I'm not sure where he is. I'm not sure whether he's a right back, right centre half, a defensive midfielder, midfielder. I don't know where he is, which has been my issue with him. I just want someone to go, that's exactly what he is. That's where he's going to be playing from now on. So yeah, that's always been my concern. But then even still, like we've got Barkley. I think Barkley's back now as well. So the guy isn't like, super. He's not, Mr. Maverick anymore that he used to be, but he can still come on and, we've seen him score some good goals outside the box for Villa, in his loan spell
Exactly.
and
Yeah, it
his
can come on
debut.
in many different stages of the game. If you need to keep possession, he can do that. If you need a goal from somewhere, he can do that. So,
Yeah,
Barkley can be quite versatile with regard to any situation that you put him in. He's got that experience as well to be able to sort of
yeah,
control a game if needed. So yeah,
yeah,
some good options. And yeah, I was just thinking there while you're talking, and we'll move on to getting score predictions very very quickly, and we'll
yeah,
finish up shortly. But with regard to, it's mad to think that Emi Buendia, who I've given a lot of grief to,
yeah.
and you talk about Bogarde, but I've given a lot of grief to Emi Buendia. But how we could kind of say, Buendia's got to be in the team. It's what a turnaround it has been for him.
Massive. I wanted him gone. I wanted him gone this summer because when we was looking at play, we was all saying, "Oh, we're not going to sign nobody till somebody goes. We need Buendia gone." And I was like, "Fine, let him go." Like, and to me, he's from when we saw him at Norwich, I was like, "This guy's the real deal." Like, he's super. Like, I'm sure he had better stats than Maddison. He was unreal with Pookie when at Norwich, and then they Cantwell, and I was like, "I'll take all three." Brilliant, take all three. And
Mm-hmm.
when we got Buendia, I was like, I can't believe we've got this guy. Like, I think he was heavily linked to Arsenal at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just not been at that level. Like, he was part of the Grealish money, and he's just never been there. So I felt like he was just a record sign at the time, but it felt like he just flopped. It was just that was it. And obviously he went to Leverkusen, and I was like, okay, this is where he's going to be shop window. He's going to be superb, and he's going to get the move, or we're going to bring him back. And it kind of felt like when he come back, it was like Leverkusen didn't want him, and we kind of like had their somebody they didn't want to have, and it was like, oh great, okay, then we'll have to just take him back because we've got no option. And he has been superb. He's been everywhere. He's run ragged. He's like a little pit bull. He'll go in for any challenge. He's like 4'11", and he's unbelievable. He's unbelievable, and yeah, I really think he should be starting every game going forward. Obviously, changes in form and things like that. But right now, he's one of our better players, absolutely. And like I say, I really like him in the 10 at the moment. I've always said I wanted Rodgers in the 10. I think I think most Villa fans have said, why is he out wide? He's been underutilised there, but Buendia's keeping him out there right now.
Yeah, he seems to have got a good understanding with, say, Marlon when he's featured with him, Matson when he's featured with him, and he's a good little link player between sort of whoever's
Yeah,
playing up top in terms of whether that's Watkins or Marlon, and those players around him. Who else is involved in that number 10 position, and then the wide fullback, whichever side he's
yeah,
on. He seems to link those three or four players together really well. And if you get players around him, he could play those quick passes. It's where sometimes he has to think a little bit too long that he can maybe give the ball away. But certainly to give that spark, to give that bit of impetus, he's been really good at that. So long may that continue. And I think you're right with someone like Buendia. It's really nice to see. And we criticize players as we do, but you just still want them to do well. You still want them to produce on the pitch. So it's great to see him doing that. So hopefully he can do that on Sunday. Guys, we will get score predictions in a second. I'll get Brad's score prediction. Button help us continue on the road to 10,000 subscribers. And get your thoughts and get your comments in and score predictions in the chat. What do you think the score is going to be against Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday? So, Brad, without further ado, your score prediction for Sunday. Score and scorers, please.
2-1. Similar to, like I say, we've beaten 2-0 and 2-1 this season. I definitely think they'll score. So 2-1, and I'm going to go for a Marlon brace.
Wow,
Very
again,
much so.
keeping that
Yes,
goal scoring
yes.
run going.
Love a strike, like a
Fantastic.
striker who's scoring. I just, yeah, something about it.
I'm going to sit firmly on the fence and go for
Oh,
a 2-2 draw. A very, very entertaining game. And I'm going to say Morgan Rogers will get off the mark for Villa in the Premier League this season. And I will go for a Ezri Konsa goal from a set piece. Yeah,
okay.
let's go a bit left field with it. But yeah, 2-2 draw. Just a quick one. I got the boys' thoughts in terms of points total for the 4 Premier League games that we've got over this next period before the next international break. So if we face Tottenham, as we know, Man City, Liverpool, and Bournemouth, those 4 games, 12 points up for grabs. How many points are we getting?
7.
Yeah,
Seven
I think
points.
I went for 7. You know.
Yeah, I think you can probably, obviously have Spurs for 3. I think Bournemouth, and I think we'll draw against one of the big boys. I think it'll be a score draw. I'm not sure who it will be, because it could be either. But yeah, like I say, I mean, hopefully we get another 7-2 against Liverpool, which would be nice. Get another one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, mental that game. But yeah, no, 7 points. Yeah, 7
Yeah,
points.
I think I'd set off for 7 definitely. So that'll set us up quite nice if we're going into the Christmas period and when it really does kick in the season. So, but hopefully we can get that result. I'll definitely take a 2-1, mate, after from Sunday, and we'll be there, myself and Martin. Hopefully, if his Wi-Fi is back on, for the watch along on Sunday. So make sure you catch us for that. I'll also be doing an instant reaction. We'll get on with a Lions Raw match reaction show as well. Potentially talking tactics with Gareth and fans forum, you name it. Everything is back as of now. We are really back in action with the channel. So stay tuned to the channel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Brad, thank you for joining.
No
Follow
problems.
Brad at AVFC, The Religion, on X
Everywhere.
and Instagram and everything else. Get yourself following Brad for all the Villa news. Thank you for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.